rather clamour for paternity leaves as well. So should fathers in India get paid leaves to take care of their children? The Minister for Women, Child Rights Development does not think so. Menaka Gandhi said, and I quote, "Paternity leave can be considered only if once the woman goes back to work after her 26 weeks of leave, we find that men are availing their sick leave for a month to take care of their child. Let me see how many men will do that. I will be happy to give it, but for a man, it will just be a holiday. He won't do anything." That's kind of harsh, but to take this forward, joining us right now is Sairi Chahal of Sheroes.in and former Chief Marketing Officer at Wipro, Jesse Paul, and Mohandas Pai, Chairman of the Manipal Global University. Thank you very much for joining in, all of you. Appreciate it. Sairi, let me just come to you first. What do you make of the comment by the Minister?
Well, yes, it is a controversial comment. I guess it is bound to response, strong reactions as it has. But I guess there is a sense of practicality in it as well, however hard that is. It is true that women own the caregiving economy, and they are the ones who are anchoring a large part of not only children, but also everything else that comes with families, weddings, elder care, and so on. But having said that, I think it is critical to be cautious, especially when it comes from top, when it comes from policymakers, it comes from legislation, to set the right tone and to set the right message. Shared parenting, gender equal laws, gender equal parenting and family norms are the way forward for most of the developed world and parts of the developing world. And I guess it sort of missed the point there.
But, Jesse, let me come to you from the point that Sairi was making. You talk about equality, you talk about how women must be held equal to men at the workplace. In that case, if you're expecting the father to have as much interest or as much role in bringing up the child, isn't this defying equality? Jesse?
Yes. So I think the comment was made based on very anecdotal data, and I can always counter it with people that I know who have actually utilized their leave to help their wives right after childbirth. And there is also the practical angle that, look, I mean, the government is supposed to set a vision and policies that drive it. So if we are looking at equality in the workplace, then the policy should allow for equal leave, and you can even say that as a family you get to have 6 months, and the husband and wife can choose who takes which 3 months, and it's your choice. So if the man says, sure, I don't want it, no problem, let the mother have the whole 6 months. But these kind of comments and the extended policy are just reinforcing the current situation, which it's not really relevant, at least in, where I live. I do see a lot of parents wanting to have joint parenthood, and this is not really helping. And it also takes a very monofocal view, because it's only looking at the biological requirements. Whereas if you actually look at a culture or whatever, we want to have equality, and you also want that employers do not see a liability walk in through the door when they see a young, marriageable age lady, but if it's seen as a liability, then it should be equal for both.
Mohandas Pai is also with us. I'm sure, Mohandas Pai, you've got strong views on the subject, but I just want to read this specific thing out. This was an article which appeared in the Atlantic magazine in 2015. I'm going to read a very small paragraph. It quoted a report by the World Economic Forum, and they had released a global gender gap report showing that countries with the strongest economies are those that have found ways to further women's careers and close the gender pay gap. And I'm quoting here, one striking effective strategy used by higher ranking countries is paternity leave, which whatever else it may accomplish is a brilliant and ambitious form of social engineering, a behavior modification tool that has been shown to boost male participation in the household and enhance female participation in the labor force. Mr. Pai, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, look, first of all, I think what the minister said reflected her views of an earlier generation. I mean, when possibly that generation had children, men possibly didn't take responsibility. So that's the earlier generation. We should take it in our strides and not go hammer and tongs at them. If you look at people of childbearing age today, certainly they're in nuclear families in large places. Certainly the father has to take care too and take his part. I think it's very important. Of course, the mother bears the baby. The father can't bear the baby. And I think it's good to have paternity leave to make sure that father takes responsibility. Yes, they'll be misused by a few. It doesn't matter. We have to change behavior. And unless you change behavior, I think we're not setting the proper norms for the future. So I think it's very required. And you spoke about women participation. Look at China. China has got an 85% women participation. China grew at 9.9% a year from 1978 to 2015. India grew at 8.4% from 1991 till 2016. And my view is the extra 1.5% of China is because the Chinese have liberated the women right from 1949 when Mao said, women hold up half of heaven. So Mao educated the Chinese women, gave them the freedom, created gender equality, and thus led to a very high growth in China and women's participation in the workforce. If you go to China, the women are free in their views, they work, and they are equal to men, and they don't get subdued. And we have 24% work participation by women in India. It's still a very feudal society. So I think we need to break all that. And certainly, the economic rationale is strong because we have to talk about young people in the age group of, let's say, 21 to 35 for the main childbearing generation, and they certainly require paternity leave. But I think we should do it.
But Mr. Pai, I understand that. The fact of the matter is that this is the Minister for Women's and Child Development making this statement. If the government is of this view, what Prashant was alluding to was that wouldn't this further expand the gender gap?
No, I think we should not be too harsh because remember, we are a country in transition. A large number of people are very conventional. They're, conservative. And younger people are more in the workforce in the south and the north. We have to accept it. It's all right. I don't think it should be too harsh on them. And you see, the minister, yes, she understands. She probably was talking out of personal pain or possibly the pain that she saw when, that generation was the childbearing age.
Right.
I think we should not make too much of it. Accept it. Just tell her gently, the time has changed now. Young people want their nuclear families. They don't have support. The fathers want to spend time with their children. Encourage them. Let us reduce inequality between genders, and let's get along.
Kritika, if you take my example, my personal
I was
example,
waiting for that, yes.
I've got two kids, right? I mean, young kids, young children. I took paternity leave, by the way, and I used it properly. I didn't
But did
while
you
away
get
time.
paternity leave for, how long did you get the leave?
I mean, I think I was off for about 2 weeks, that worked in both cases. But it does cause, women suffer, careers suffer after children. Yeah. And the study that I was reading actually shows that in that critical time when both parents are required to take care of a newborn child, the father is going to be a lot more involved. Later in life, and that helps the woman go back and get back into her career. Yeah. My wife, for example, isn't working, and I can tell you she's far more competent and smarter than I am. But that is just me. Jesse, you want to come in? So is this going to impact how companies frame their policies? These kind of comments?
Yes, I do.
Or?
I have very strong. Right. So I do want to say that, and so actually it is an issue. So while in Wipro there was no long paternity leave, we did have team members who asked, and we did try to change things around, but eventually it did end up taking whatever accumulated leave you have. But when I started my own firm, I felt the smallest thing I could do was offer paternity leave. And we have had, in fact, in the last 6 years, we've had men take paternity leave. We've not yet had anyone avail of maternity leave, maybe because of our hiring profile, whatever. But
sure.
I can give evidence that people do take the leave and make use of it. But I also wanted to bring in the picture that this policy really helps those who are in a white-collar job. It doesn't really support an entrepreneur because I don't think many entrepreneurs are in a position
I agree.
where they're going to take 6
Jesse,
months off even if you tell them you can.
Absolutely.
And
we completely are running out of time. I'm being told we're going to wrap up. I think Mr. Pai wanted to come in and make a point.
Yeah.
Quickly, sir.
I won't tell about our Infosys experience when I was director HR. We found that only 55% of women came back after maternity to work.
Yeah.
We looked into policies. It appears that they discriminate against because they didn't get promotion. and didn't have support systems. So what we did, the period of maternity was considered as work. That means, it was not considered as leave, considered work. So for their appraisal and everything, it was work. So many more were promoted and they felt very good. Then we had long sabbaticals, we created a support system, we created mentorship, we created everything else. And from 55%, it went up to 85%. So good policy plays a part in keeping the woman in the workforce. And I think that could be a role model.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pai, Sairi, Jesse. Appreciate all of you coming in with that perspective, with those views. And thanks indeed for that conversation this evening.
So it's more of a company-specific thing. It's a role that the company needs to take.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope these comments don't influence policy straight away.